What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another one. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about doves. This is going to be basically a gear and tip video all about doves. Me personally, I love dove hunting, and it is actually opening 1 week from today, so that's why I decided to do this video. I was like, I'm just going to do a gear and tips video for if you're a new dove hunter and you're looking for what you should buy and maybe just some tips to help you get out there in the field. Or even if you're a seasoned dove hunter and you're just looking for maybe a new tip or something because you're like me for some time and you can't kill anything. So basically, like I said, we're going to be talking about gear and then we'll talk about some tips. So we'll start with gear first. So the first thing that I feel like any dove hunter should have if you're into dove hunting is this. This is the Dove Mojo Voodoo Dove Decoy. This is the battery operated one, and before I say anything about this, make sure you check your state laws to make sure that they allow battery operated decoys where you're at, because I know some places you're not allowed to use battery operated decoys, so make sure you check to make sure you're allowed to use battery operated decoys. But if you are, this decoy is killer for you. And I know some people don't believe doves can decoy. I'll argue that all day because I have seen doves decoy with this. Now this decoy, it's really simple to use. The wings are just magnets, so they just stick right on like that, or stick on or pull off like that, whatever you want to say. And then you got your main body, your decoy here. So it's easy to bring along. You can just take it like this, throw it in a backpack, or you can just carry it out with you if you're just planning to use this. The battery pack, it's right in here in the back. Just pop the back open like this. And this is where your battery pack is stored. It has nice cushion around it. Stuff that in there, close her up, and then she's ready to go. All you gotta do is pop your wings on. Again, like I said, they're magnetic, so all you gotta do is pop them on like that. They only go on one way. There's a little groove right, I don't know if you can see that. There's a little groove in there, and then there's a little kind of bolt right there that it fits onto, just like this. You can hear that snap in, and then there's a button right here on the butt, and all you do is flip that, and then it turns on. The doves just like the flashing motion, and I'll tell you one thing, doves love this decoy. I've had doves decoy with this. They're flying one way over yonder, over in another field, and they'll just turn and bolt right towards my setup. So people can say, oh, they might have just been changing their route and flying over to a different field. There's been doves that have came to this decoy, and like I've heard stories of people that the doves have actually tried to land on this decoy. So anybody can argue that doves won't decoy. They do decoy, and this is a great decoy for if you're getting into it and you just want one decoy that you can just bring with and throw it out in the field to increase your odds. This is the one I'd go for. And it comes with a little carry stand. Well, not really a carry stand, more like just a stand. A couple stakes, you put them together, and they all pop in together like this. And then you have this nice long stand. And then all you gotta do is take your decoy here, stuff it in the end like that, and then you can just put this stake in the ground, flip it on, and you're ready to go. Now, you can have more decoys. You can also have stationary decoys. Now, I'm not sure how well these work. I've used these before I had the Mojo because I've had these for a while. I didn't see many doves decoy to these as much as they do with the Mojo, but these actually clip on, and give me a second, I'll be right back because these come in a 4-pack, and I'll show you what I did with the other one. So give me a second, I'll be right back. Okay, so what you can do is you can actually take this clip out like I did with this one here. Like I said, they come in a 4-pack. So I left 2 with the clip on, and 2 I took the clip out. What you can do is you can take little stakes like this, go to Lowe's, Home Depot, they sell these little stakes, and you can cut them to a length where you can stick it up in this hole right here. And they're hollow, so it goes all the way up to the head, and then you can stick these in the ground like this. And this is what, I like doing this because if you're setting up in a field, you're not going to be able to find a tree to put them on unless there's a tree in the middle of the field. So I enjoy doing this, you know. I enjoy setting up decoys. I just enjoy it because you get to make like your own little scenario, you know. You can get a couple, you can stick a couple over here, make it like a feed zone, and then you can get your Mojo over here. like it's flying in, and I just enjoy setting up decoys. Now the decoy that I wouldn't really recommend buying. That is this decoy right here. Oh, it got some fuzzy on its beak. This decoy is also made by Mojo, and not hating on Mojo, they make damn good decoys, but this is the wind-powered Mojo, and the decoy itself looks phenomenal. Like, just this in general, it looks like a great decoy, and it is a great decoy. It's a good quality decoy, but the wings that it comes with right here, you need like 25 miles an hour, 25 mile an hour winds just to be able to get the wings to spin. I don't, there's actually a bar that goes through here. You can see right there in the side, both sides, there's a spot for the bar to go through, and then you stick the wings on the bar, and the wings will spin if you have the wind, but it needs to be like fucking like crazy winds to be able to get it to spin. You know, I've went out on windy days, non-windy days, and even on the windy days they barely spin. Maybe like this, you know, they'll spin a little bit, but it's nowhere near the battery operated one. If your state or something doesn't allow battery operated decoys, this decoy ain't bad. Like I said, it's not a, well, I said it's a bad decoy, but in reality it's not a bad decoy if this is what you got to work with. But if you can get your hands on the battery operated one all day, I'd say go with the battery operated one. You can use this one in your setup with the battery operated one, but I wouldn't recommend that personally with my experience. I've done that before, and I feel like that sometimes spooks them, because I've been set up in a field and I'm sitting against a tree line, and I've had the dove decoys out in the field, and I just decided to bring this one with, and I threw it away from the setup, just like the setup's over here and I threw this decoy over here, you know, and the doves will fly down to the setup with the Mojo, and they'll fly over it, and the doves won't even be looking at me, but they'll get to this decoy and then they'll scatter. So I could be wrong, but I feel like this decoy can sometimes spook them if the wings aren't spinning or something, creating that flashing motion. So like I said, I'd recommend, if you're allowed, go with the battery operated one. Another thing you can use is a dove call. I have the Primos dove call. That just does basically the morning dove noise, you know, the woo 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 woo. Most of the times it's just going to be a locator call just to find where the doves are sitting, but there's multiple dove calls out there on the market. If you want to go buy one of them, you can buy one of them. It could be beneficial to you, but it's not something that I'd go out of your way to buy. You know, if you want one, go buy one. If you don't feel like you want one, you don't have to buy one. So that's basically it for gear. Oh, and a water bottle is key too. Water bottle. Stay hydrated, because dove hunting, it is hot at the beginning of dove hunting. You know, September 1st is when it opens where I'm at. So it's still warm, you know, typically. So, you know, make sure you have a water bottle and stay hydrated. So now let's move on to guns. Which guns I feel like would be best. So you can either go with a 20 gauge, a 16 gauge, or a 12 gauge. Now, any one of these guns will do pretty much the exact same thing, and that's put pellets at birds. But most people would opt towards the 12 gauge just because you get the most power. But for the majority of time, if you're hunting in an area where there's houses or something nearby, I'd opt sometimes more towards the 20 gauge here, just because this is a lighter, well, not really lighter, but the BBs aren't going to travel as far in this gun, and that's where you need to learn like how far your BBs are actually going to travel, because if there's a house, you know, a certain amount of distance away, you need to know, if you're shooting around that area, you need to make sure that those BBs aren't going to make it to that house. And with the 20 gauge, if you know the BBs aren't going to make it with the 20 gauge, but they're going to make it with the 12 gauge, take the 20 gauge out, you know. Some people are like, oh, I'm not taking a 20 gauge out, I'm taking the maximum power 12 gauge. You know, this will do just as good as a 12 gauge. You don't need a bunch of power. You know, everybody always wants to have the biggest gun. This little 20 gauge here will get the job done just as good, if not better, than the 12 gauge. Me personally, I enjoy taking the 16 gauge out. Now, it might just be because I love this gun. This gun is one of my favorite guns, you know. This gun, it was my pap's gun, and then it was my dad's gun. Well, it's still my dad's gun. He hasn't handed it down to me yet. I like the 16 gauge just because from where I hunt, you know, there's certain buildings nearby, but there's not a lot, and I know that the 16 gauge from where I'm shooting won't reach the buildings that are nearby. And obviously, for any new hunters out there, don't shoot towards buildings. Know what you're shooting at. I've seen people that are hunting, and I've seen them hunt on public land, and they're shooting right towards a building. You know, make sure you know what is on the other side of like a tree line or a cornfield or anything. Go out there and scout. Go out there and scout the area just so you know if there's a cornfield here and the path that you're going to walk is on this side of the cornfield, go over to the other side of the cornfield and make sure there's not like a trail there or a house or anything like that, because you don't, that's going to be the worst feeling the day that you shoot something and a BB goes through somebody's house or something and hits somebody. You know, thank God I've never had that experience. I take pride in being a good hunter and a responsible hunter, but that has to be the worst feeling, is accidentally shooting somebody or shooting at somebody. So always make sure you know what is on the other side of where you are shooting, because like I said, I've seen people on public land before and they're shooting over a cornfield and there's a road on the other side of that, or a house or something, and you know, they don't even know it's over there. So always make sure you know what is on the other side of where you're shooting. So now we can talk about ammo. So you can either, just like the guns, you can either go with 20 gauge, 16 gauge, or 12 gauge. But that's not the hot topic with the shells. What I want to talk about with shells is the shot. You can either go with 8 shot or 7.5 shot. That's my personal preference. You can go 7 shot, but I'd recommend going 7.5 to 8 shot. Typically, I'd recommend, if you're a new dove hunter, I'd go with 8 shot, because 8 shot has a wider spread and you have a better chance of at least winging that bird and getting it to come down, and then you can manually go up and dispatch it. And then once you get up to a better, like you're shooting better, you're hitting better, then you can maybe move up to 7.5 shot, because that's going to be a tighter pattern, but it's going to hit the bird harder. And so I got the 20 gauge and 8 shot, 12 gauge and 8 shot, and the 16 gauge and 7.5 shot. That's just the boxes that I grabbed. But so, and go with 2 3/4 length. That's basically pretty much any box you're going to find. You know, it says it right on top. You can read there. Tells you right on top what gauge it is, the length, and then all the way at the other end it says the shot. And even different boxes like the 16, this is federal ammunition. It still has the same concept. So if you're new and you don't know where to find that stuff, it's typically right on the top of the box. So either go with 8 shot or 7.5 shot. Like I said, 8 shot if you're a new hunter, 7.5 shot if you're a little more experienced. And that's just my personal preference. You can go out there as a new hunter and use 7.5 shot or even 7 shot all you want. I'm just saying that 8 shot is going to spread more, and you're going to have a better chance of at least hitting that bird and getting it down. So now we can talk about some tips. What to look for, where to go, all that kind of good stuff. Typically, when you think of doves, typically they're field birds. They feed off of fields, corn, and typically grain. So if you're looking for a spot to dove hunt, you know, freshly chopped corn fields, milo fields, you know, something like that, and a big one, sunflower fields. If you can get permission to hunt a sunflower field, doves love sunflower seeds. You'll probably do really good if you go and hunt a sunflower seed field. And like I said, make sure you know that general area and everything, so you know where that is. Also, when you're going to look for your dove hunting spot, you can also go out and scout that area. Like if you get permission from a farm owner, you see he has some cornfields and even a sunflower seed field in the back, you know, go out there and scout that a couple days. Even if it's the middle of the season and you just want to get out there right away, go out there and just walk the land. Don't take a gun, don't take anything. Just focus on scouting. Scouting is a big part in hunting, whether you're dove hunting, squirrel hunting, deer hunting, any kind of hunting. Scouting is important because you're going to find which way those birds are flying, their flight patterns, where they're going, and all that kind of good stuff. So go out there and scout and sit somewhere. Just go out there and sit and watch where them doves are flying, because there might be doves flying over at a different cornfield from where you're sitting. So go over there and sit, and you might have doves flying over you, and then you know this is where they're flying, and you can see where they're going down to feed, and that's where you can set up. And then you can also go over there and maybe find an area to set up your decoys, maybe find a tree to sit by or the edge of a cornfield to sit by. That's typically where I like to sit. If I can get into a row of corn, I like to sit in there because then I'm covered from like mostly all sides, and that's where the blind here can come into play, because then you can put the blind in front of you or something. So that's basically my opinion of what you should do to scout. Also, when you're dove hunting, always, if you're a new dove hunter, always make sure you have your eyes open. I've made this mistake multiple times. Don't look at your phone while you're dove hunting. That is a big one. Don't look at your phone. All of you veteran dove hunters that are watching this and listening to me, you guys are probably knowing this right now. Don't look at your phone. I've done that so many times where I've been sitting at a decoy setup, haven't been seeing birds for a while. So I pull out my phone and I look just to see what time it is or something, and then a dove goes flying over. And they are fast birds. So by the time if it's like directly in front of you and it's flying to the right, and you have your phone in your hand, you're not going to have time to put that down, get your gun up, and get a shot off. You might, but the odds are you're not going to be able to get a shot. So stay off your phone. Sometimes, you know, if you get a message or something and you have to look at it, or if somebody's calling you, that's a different story. But that can still get annoying, because I remember one time I was hunting, I was walking a field, my buddy called me, so I answered it, and I was talking to him, and I looked down for a second because he asked me a question, and I was thinking. I looked back up, and there goes a dove flying over. And I was hunting for like an hour and I didn't see anything, so, you know, that was kind of a bummer. So stay off your phone. Try hard to, you know, focus on what you're doing in the dove hunting field. So that's basically it for this video on gear and tips. So hopefully you guys found this somewhat useful. I know there might be some parts where I jumped around and everything. You know, this was my first actual tips video. Dove hunting's coming up, so expect dove hunting videos. But until then, hopefully that you found this useful. If you're a new hunter, hopefully you found something that's useful in this that you can take to your dove field and hopefully lay the smack down on some birds. So hopefully you get out there, do some dove hunting this year. I know I will. I'm going to be posting videos of dove hunting. So until that time, or until the next video, I'll see you guys later. Have a good one. See you guys later.